everybody. So welcome to our second event in our Living with Nature series. I'm Leslie, where I'm one of your hosts. We're going to be sending it back over to Steve, our other host, in a bit. So we're so excited to have you join us today. We're going to be learning about some really neat projects that the North Carolina Zoo is involved with. And we are going to learn specifically about international conservation projects, which is pretty neat. But before we get started, I have some kind of tips to make sure that this program goes smoothly for everybody and that you get the most out of it. You'll notice that you are muted upon entry. That is on purpose, but we are still hoping that you'll interact with us. We're going to be opening up the chat soon, and you'll be able to ask us any questions that you may have. You just put them right there in the chat, and we'll try to answer them live on air if we can. But we do ask that you are respectful in that chat. We are trying to keep this as fun and educational as possible. So as respectful as you can be, we really appreciate it. We also do have a worksheet that you may have gotten. How it works is this side. This is our first segment. The back is the second segment. So you don't have to when it's focused just on us, you don't have to be turning your paper around or anything like that. So make sure you have that out if you plan to use it. And then also we do want to thank Oliver Rubber for securing the grant funding to allow us to do Living with Nature and keep it free for everybody. So thank you to Oliver Rubber. Since today is all about international conservation, I have this coworker here with me. This is Drew. He is our Associate Curator of International Conservation, correct?
That is correct.
Yeah. Awesome. So tell us a little bit about what you do in that role here at the zoo.
So my job at the zoo is, like you said, focusing on international conservation. And a lot of that is focused on the conservation technology and the anti-poaching work that the zoo does with SMART, which is this software that we use in the field and a lot of places around the world to help make decisions about how to use rangers to best protect wildlife in the field. And the key thing there, which I think we're going to talk about today, is this relationship that we have with people in the field and partners in the field and partners around the world. I mean, what allows us at the zoo to be able to do our job well, especially now during the pandemic where we can't travel as much, is to know that we can rely on people in the field, to know that the partners that we work with are going to be able to do their job and continue protecting wildlife even though we can't be there.
Yeah, super important.
Yeah.
In fact, we are going to your specific, the role that you're most comfortable in is with the SMART probe technology, correct? But we're going to be talking about giraffe conservation today. So we're actually going to be going to Tanzania to meet up with Jessica, who is in the field doing giraffe conservation. So give us a second. We're going to have to bring her up. I'm going to come around to the back of this camera and we'll get that all figured out. So come
trip.
All right. Hey, Jessica, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Oh, awesome. I can hear you. Awesome. So trying to get my microphone all situated. Anybody else ever had this issue before? So, hey, Jessica, it's really awesome to kind of see you out in the field. I wanted to talk about giraffe research and conservation with you today. And first and foremost, if you could bring up the our first picture, it's going to have a picture of Africa. Now, can you tell us, Jessica, exactly where you're located in Africa? And then tell us a little bit about the the giraffes in Africa and the ones that you specifically do research with.
All right, so I'm in Tanzania, which is on the east coast of Africa, about halfway from the top to the bottom of the east coast. And on this map, you'll see a lot of purple. That's all mostly in Tanzania. And that is the Maasai giraffe. Those are the ones that I work with. And specifically, I work in the southern part of Tanzania. It's a pretty big place, so I cover just the south in Ruaha National Park and Nyerere National Park. And then giraffe all over Africa, there are 4 species. There's the northern giraffe, the southern giraffe, the Maasai giraffe, which is the one I work with, and reticulated giraffe.
Very cool. So on this picture, there's kind of like this almost like backwards C that's a little bit darker gray. And from my understanding, that's where we used to, like, that's the original range of giraffes. Is that correct? And then those colors are where we find those giraffes now.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So they used to cover this huge range in Africa, and basically it was everywhere that wasn't a really deep desert or a really dense rainforest. And as you can see now, those colored areas are much, much smaller than the area they used to cover. So they're reduced to these really small areas now, and that's the only places you can find them.
Very interesting. All right, you can bring it back to us, Linda. So since they've had this really large range way back when, or their original range, but now it's much smaller, what's kind of happening with giraffes in their decline?
So what we've got going on with giraffe is what they call a silent extinction. And it's basically that nobody was really paying attention to what giraffe were doing. And their numbers have declined across the world 40% in just the last 30 years. So it's a huge drop. And so like Maasai giraffe now, there's only about 35,000 left in the world. So, and most of those are right here in Tanzania. And we don't know all of the reasons for that, but obviously that contraction, that shrinking of their habitat area is one of the big ones.
Yeah, that's really interesting, the silent decline. We haven't really been watching it as much or seeing that decline. So how are you able to, we have the northern, the southern Maasai and reticulated giraffe. How are you able to kind of tell these giraffe species from each other? And if you could hold on 1 second to answer that, actually, we just have our poll up. We're going to see if you all can figure it out before we tell you. But like we said, we had those 4 different species of giraffe, and there are subspecies of giraffe too. Is that correct, Jessica?
Yeah, so there's a couple different subspecies among southern and northern giraffe, but there are a little more subtle differences in subspecies and species.
Gotcha. So if you could tell us, Jessica, how did when they found the difference between these species, how were they able to look at them and tell?
So basically, you can look at the spot patterns that they have, and they have a different type of spot pattern. So for example, reticulated, they have a very smooth, almost square spots with a lighter color around them. Whereas Maasai giraffe have kind of jagged edges around the sides of their spots. So they're not very smooth edges. Gotcha. And you'll get different patterns in them.
That makes sense. Very good, John. I think everybody got it right. That was pretty cool. So giraffes are having this silent decline, and you work specifically with Maasai giraffes. And first and foremost, you're on your phone or are you on your computer?
I'm on my phone because my computer's not working.
Awesome.
I can give you a look.
Yeah, if you could give us a view of kind of where your background basically in Tanzania.
So I'm currently sitting on the riverside in the Greater Ruaha River, and the sun's going down because it's about 6 o'clock in the evening here. So I've got a gorgeous sunset going on over here. And I don't know how zoomed in it is, if you can see, there's a water buck grazing in the middle of the riverbed right there. And the hippos, of course, every time I pull out the camera, they've gone underwater. River continues all the way around. You can see the mountains in the background, some birds flying across.
Very cool.
And so, yeah, this is where I hang out when I get done working.
Very cool. So you all may have noticed that it kind of Jessica kind of started to go in and out. So she says where she is, her internet is touch and go every second. So it may happen that she has to leave, or if we just give it a second, it usually will come back. So, all right. So Jessica, we're doing this research. Giraffes are having a silent decline, you're saying. What exactly is your research? Can you tell us a little bit about what you do out there in Tanzania to help with the giraffes?
So basically what I do is I drive around in the protected areas, Ruaha and Nyerere, and I look for all the giraffe that I can find on my particular road surveys. And When I find a group, I count them. I see how many are males, how many are females, adults, subadults, calves, and then I look for any problems that they might have and record all of that, take pictures of everything. And one of the problems that we're looking at in Ruaha National Park in particular is this new skin disease that they have. And we're trying to figure out how it affects them because we don't really know. So we don't know what we should do about it until we know whether it's affecting their ability to reproduce, to have babies, whether it's affecting their lifespan, how long they live, whether it's affecting whether or not the lions can get them a little bit easier. We don't know any of those things. So before we can make a plan, we have to find out that information. And so that's my goal.
Very cool. We actually have some pictures too. So if Linda, if you could, our next picture, I believe, is going to be a picture, and all of these are Jessica took while she was out and doing her research. So our first one should be of a Maasai giraffe, so that you could see what it looks like. There you go. So you took this picture, right, Jessica, you said? Very cool.
I did, yes. This is a watering hole in dry season. It's one of the few places where there's water. And on this particular day, there were about 22 giraffe hanging out in this area trying to get a drink.
Wow, pretty crazy. And then the next picture, Linda, if you could go to the next one, is that skin disease. And I kind of think it looks just like a big scab, basically. But it is something you said that you're trying to figure out if it is, how it is affecting their populations. Correct?
Yeah, that's correct. So we don't even have a complete answer on what's causing it. We think it's a nematode, but we don't know which one. That's basically a little worm. And it can start out pretty mild, and it just looks like a little small place like you see on the left, and then it gets more and more severe until they get bloody spots on it and it causes swelling in the leg. But we don't know how long it takes for that to happen, and we don't know what the final effect is.
Very interesting. And then I think our last picture is actually of you in your truck as you go around. And I had learned the last time that you and I talked to, you had a blog and a video of kind of what a day is in the life of your research there. And if Linda, if you're able to copy that link and put it in the chat so that we won't be able to play it now because we don't have enough time, but for all of you to see kind of what it's like firsthand from Jessica's video. Thank you, Linda. Great. So that video that Linda just put in the chat is a video that Jessica put together about her days at the in giraffe conservation. All right, if you want to show it back to us, Linda, real quick. So Jessica, you were saying that all of this research is super important because it kind of helps us find out what we need to do to help save these animals, basically. It informs those conservation plans. We do have a quick question for you. And we kind of said it earlier, but if you want to reiterate, somebody did ask how many types of giraffe are there? We know the 4 main species. And then do you happen to know how many different subspecies there are?
So if you include all the subspecies, there's 9 total. I can't remember exactly how they break down. So there's 9 subspecies broken into 4 species. But in Tanzania, we only have Maasai giraffe, and 90% of all the Maasai giraffe in the world are in Tanzania.
Gotcha. Very cool. So we're gonna let you go, Jessica. Thank you so much for hanging out with us and answering all these really amazing questions and showing us, what it's like to be a researcher in Tanzania. But we're going to let you go and have a great day, Jessica. I'm going to turn back around and come to the front. We're going to put it on Drew real quick. All right. So real quick, Drew, we have this giraffe conservation that we're doing in Tanzania and Jessica is helping us with. We have all these partnerships as well. But could you tell us real quick a snippet about what SAFE is and how basically SAFE is also helping save not just giraffes, but all animals?
Sure.
Or specific animals.
Sure, yeah. So SAFE is a program. There's this Association of Zoos and Aquariums. It's a big group, professional organization of zoos and aquariums, like the name says. Most folks are familiar. There's a lot of zoos around the country, and they come together they've come together to come up with this idea of saving animals from extinction.
Okay, saving animals.
And what that means basically is what they're trying to do is take this great giant audience that they have and this expertise that's in each of the zoos. So like all of us, we know a lot about the animals that we work with and the work we do in the field. And so we want to leverage the expertise in the zoo staff
That makes sense.
and the zoo community and the audience that we have to try to better conserve these species. So, there's specific safe projects for specific safe animals. So the giraffes is one. We are a leader on another one here at the zoo with the African vultures, the red wolves. I think we're going to be talking about vultures later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In fact, we have to go now. I'm sorry to cut you off.
No, but that's great.
There are so many different ones, but we have to head it over because we have another really cool research project, conservation project we want to talk to you about that involves one of our people also here at the North Carolina Zoo. Jessica also has helped out with this project before too. So we're going to pass it on over. Steve, I don't know if you hear me. Do you hear me? Do you see me? We're going to pass it on over to you.
How cool was that? Being able to talk
over there, maybe.
with somebody in Africa. So Leslie and Jessica having a wonderful conversation. How neat is that? And talking about some really cool animals over there as well. Hey guys, thank you very much for tuning in to Living with Nature. My name is Steve. I'm one of Leslie's counterparts here in the Education Department. And I'm here with Dr. Corinne Kendall, Curator of Conservation and Research here at the North Carolina Zoo. And Corinne, you do some really cool work with vultures. Why vultures? Aren't they kind of dirty animals?
The vultures might not be as charismatic as giraffes.
That's true.
But they're still really important. They play a really critical role in the environment. They have a unique niche that vultures kind of specialize on and provide important tools for us to stay safe and healthy.
So, I love the science word, a niche. Can you share a little bit more? What is a niche? And how does that idea relate to the vulture?
So a vulture's niche, so a lot of animals have a niche. They have a role in the environment they play.
Okay.
And a vulture's niche is as a scavenger. They are some of the best
scavengers
in the whole animal kingdom.
Okay.
And by being scavengers, so we mean that they eat dead animals. And when they do
Look at this picture. Wow.
When they eat dead animals, they are eliminating waste. They're getting rid of all that meat. And they're also prevent disease spread, because sometimes they're eating an animal that's died of a disease, or other animals coming together in large groups could spread disease, but vultures don't have too many diseases that affect them.
Really?
When they feed, they're not spreading too much disease.
So by feeding on those carcasses, they're getting rid of the carcass itself, and they're also then getting rid of the diseases that might be within or coming to the carcass at a later time?
Exactly. So imagine if we didn't have vultures, the alternatives could be things like feral dogs or flies or other bacteria that will break down a carcass. All those things are going to have a bigger impact on health when we have vultures as the primary scavengers. So they're a really great animal to be getting rid of carrion for us, because they don't have those other disease ramifications.
So how much could a vulture eat at one sitting?
They are amazing. So the African vultures that we work on in Tanzania, where we just saw Jessica joining us
That
from,
was so cool.
those birds can be up to about 12 pounds. So when I'm holding them, they're about this size.
You're going to see a picture of that later, a little bit later on.
And they can have a wingspan of almost 6 feet. So they're just amazing, immense, big birds.
That's me, guys.
Seems a bit closer to 6 feet than my wingspan.
That's a huge animal.
Massive animals. And as a result, they're eating a ton of meat really quickly. They can eat almost 2 pounds of meat in less than 10 minutes.
Wow.
So they're getting all of that out of the environment really fast, and they love to feed in big groups. So that helps them to do that even more effectively.
That makes sense. So as they descend, as you might have seen in the picture, all those animals coming to, and that's how they're able to clean it up so quickly.
Yeah, they're all watching each other all the time, and vultures are following each other, and that's how we get tons of them at once.
Oh,
sure. 100 birds feeding at a carcass.
Wow.
So that makes them really effective in getting rid of everything quickly.
Nice. So take a look at this question, guys. You see a little poll popped up there. We're going to come over here and talk about something a little bit different. So Corinne, how does studying vultures, I mean, they can fly, right? They can go all kinds of places. So how does studying them actually work?
Yeah, so in the past, we've studied vulture behavior, and that's why we know so much about all their cool social interactions. But the North Carolina Zoo has been involved in studying vulture movement for about 7 years.
Oh, wow, 7 years.
In partnership with the Wildlife Conservation Society in Tanzania, we've been tagging vultures. This is a real tag. The vultures we tag are about that big, so they're a little bit larger. Than
Not quite. The
example
the
here.
model doesn't quite
Yeah.
represent the size.
But the unit itself, these are really small. It weighs less than your cell phone, and they're about 70 grams.
Oh wow.
And they even have little solar panels on them.